And it's Willy Wonka's chocolate factory up in here with their bonkers array of different colors. But it's not only the colors that we have the most incredible scents, from those spicy, delicious scents like you're in an Indian spice bazaar, all the way through to those beautiful, soft, sweet, almost fruity scents that takes you down to Chanel number 5. Well, with this whole array, you can almost imagine those little Oompa Loompas running around, making sure that everything's looking, smelling, and tasting wonderful. Well, not tasting, we don't want to eat our orchids, but looking and smelling amazing. And with that, welcome to the Nature Company. Today, we're going to be looking at these different orchids and seeing what it is that takes them to look like this. Some of the trials and tribulations that you may go through, or the ease with which they can grow, so that you too can have a display like this in your home. And if this is the kind of information you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and that notification bell to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. So let me just make some space for myself at this table so I can go through each of these with you. I'll be 1 second. Okay, now that we have a bit of space, I'm still hidden behind the orchids, but that's okay. Shall we start off with the Cattleyas, or the Cattleya lines? These are generally the second most popular orchids, or possibly even the most well-known orchids in this orchid shape anyway. All those beautiful big pictures on those chocolate boxes and things, and hence their name, the chocolate box orchid. But they're generally the second most popular after Phalaenopsis. You'll find a lot of these available in grocery stores and hardware stores and things like that, especially as they're coming to bloom. They can be some of the easier ones to maintain indoors because their humidity requirements are not as difficult as what some of the others are. And their watering requirements are relatively easy because they like to dry out after watering. So they like to be watered, flushed really well, and then allowed to dry out before they get watered again, because one of the easiest ways to kill them is by overwatering. These guys, they do need lots of light though. So if you are keeping them indoors, keep them quite close to your windows so they can either get, even if they do get some of that morning sun, that's going to be okay. But if you've got a nice fine net curtain that can give you their filtered light just about all day long, that will be best for them. Yeah, this little baby, this is one of the cutest little colors, really bright and cheerful. This is Gory Cattletonia Starlin. Gory Cattletonia Starlin, R-L-Y-N, Starlin. And this is a Gory Cattletonia Starlin. Grown about all the time, and he still blesses us with flowers. Shame we can see he's already falling out of this pot because he was just basically thrown in on top of it and not actually planted properly. But yeah, we see all these amazing blooms, and these blooms do last for a relatively long time. They don't all open exactly at the same point, but often by the time the final bud is opened, the first opening blooms are still on your plant. So you do still get this beautiful big head of flowers. It's almost quite easy to see the Goriantha parentage in it by that almost glowing color that it has. One of my favorite orchids is the Goriantha Kalahari Sunset. But just look at that, that's so beautiful. Okay, Gory Cattletonia Starlin. And here this little RLC, Rhinolalia Cattleya, Rhinolalia Cattleya. Rhinolalia Cattleya, RLC, Village Chief North. But this is a mutated one where we don't have that coloration, that pink coloration, should I say, on the petals themselves. The sepals are still that beautiful green color, but the petals don't have any of that cerise coloration that the lip has got, like what they generally have. So this also, these bifoliate Cattleyas are terribly hardy. They're one of those Cattleyas that can be almost transplanted or repotted or divided almost at any time of year, and they don't fuss too much. They'll still root in and carry on growing. And while we're on that, these yellow Cattleyas. This is RLC Tongsupran. This is one of the Thai Cattleyas, one of the hybrids that they've produced. And with the parentage of a lot of these yellow Cattleyas, it often makes them slightly more difficult to transplant. So when you are repotting or transplanting them, please make sure you see that new root growth before you actually start repotting it. You want to see just a small amount, 1-2 centimeters of those new roots shooting out of the base of the pseudobulb before you repot. That's always going to be the trick with these yellow ones. If you're planting them immediately after flowering, like you do with some of the other Cattleyas, you may have a struggling plant. Sometimes they just refuse to root there afterwards. They're not producing enough energy or something, and they just struggle to root. So rather wait until they do start producing the new roots from those pseudobulbs before repotting. And this beautiful baby here, this is one of the species. It's Cattleya trianae variation concolor. You can just see the color is just this beautiful soft light pink, the softest pink you can ever imagine, with this beautiful yellow inside of the lip, and then deep down the throat you can see that strong bright cerise. It's just really quite striking. And these may not be available everywhere, but if you can find one, get it, because they really are so joyful. Okay, before we get on to all the brassicas and the Oncidium intergeneric hybrids, let's have a look at this Dendrochilum. This is also known as, or not also known as, it should be known as Coelogyne. Coelogyne latifolia, and it gets this beautiful cascading, almost it looks like a zip. Well, is beautiful the right word, or is it just unusual? But it is really quite spectacular. And they are tough as old nails. I've just shown you the repotting of this. This is just freshly repotted, and we can see already it's still flowering all over the show, just as a repotted and divided piece off the main plant. So there we go. These are really well worth growing and so easy. They just like to be kept a little bit moist. So remember to keep your humidity levels up and just keep a little bit of moisture in the pot itself. They don't like to dry out. They grow all year round. This specific one does tolerate a bit of the cooler temperatures, so it really is one of the easy ones to grow. Okay, let's bring some of these back up. Shame, such a big plant and such a small set of flowers. But it really is, it's a stunning one. And there we go, our gilded tower. And of course, ooh, look at the size of those flowers. I've got huge hands and it's just mind-blowing. Okay, let's move. Okay, we'll start with this baby. This is Brassica Eternal Wind. It really is. There's some people that just don't like brassicas because, I don't know, they're known as spider orchids, and for some reason some people think it reminds them of spiders. But I just think that is just so elegant. That's just graceful and beautiful, and they really are stunning. And as long as you're giving them enough light and humidity, they generally look after themselves quite well. So very little fuss, but to get them to flower can be difficult if your humidity levels and your light levels are not right. So that's generally what you're going to be looking at if you're battling to get your brassicas to flower. But there we go. This was a fairly recent repot that I'd done, and we see how fast and vigorous they grow. But I didn't get as many flowers as I'd hoped for, because also the thing with brassicas is those slugs and snails go crazy over those flower buds. So as your flower spike is coming up, they're eating it faster than it can grow. So keep an eye out for them. And now we start getting to all those fancy intergeneric hybrids. This is Brascidostella gilded tower. So the orchids like this are heavily hybridized. They've probably got dozens and dozens of parents along the line to produce these amazing blooms. But you can definitely see that there is a lot of brassia still in them by the shape and color of their blooms. And this specific plant for me grows like a bomb. I get 2 sets of flowers. I get in spring and in autumn. It obviously just gets the right temperatures and the right number of daylight hours with the right humidity levels to produce flowers twice a year for me. So they're fast growers, and that's what produces enough pseudobulbs and allows those pseudobulbs to mature fast enough to produce those blooms. They do like to be kept a little bit moist. Is moist the right word? Not damp, moist. So they do prefer to be on the wetter side than you would with your Cattleyas, but don't again overwater them because you can rot the roots. Those thinner roots are, if you don't have a well enough drained media, can rot relatively easily. But with them, often all the Oncidium type hybrids, they'll easily outgrow the pot itself, and then your roots will be out in the air and you won't have a problem with overwatering. And then we have this deep, rich burgundy. You can almost imagine that king's cloak with the white fur edge and this deep burgundy maroon, whatever color you want to call it, traipsing behind him. And that's why this is Britonia Royal Robe. You can see why they called it that. The color of this is just out of this world. It just makes such a statement. Doesn't matter how many flowers it's got, you'll always be able to see them. And these are also incredibly vigorous plants. Also, this one, we've just recently done the repotting video, and we can see how far this has already outgrown its pots again. So again, keeping it nice and moist, keeping the humidity quite high. These still accept winter temperatures that drop. So you don't have to worry about these. Also, with this, I don't always get 2 seasons of flowering a year. Sometimes I'll only get 1 season of flowering, either in spring or in autumn. But they can. Sometimes, some years, my climate's just right for them, and I get 2 sets of flowering a year. So this spectacular one. The plant itself is looking a little bit sad. It's outrun its pots. It's looking to grow, so I need to repot it into a nice new pot. I was going to, and then I saw the flower spike coming, so I thought, okay, we better leave this so that we can get all these beautiful blooms. Often you can still repot them, but the stress will reduce your blooming time. So you may still get the blooms, your blooms might be slightly smaller, and they'll probably not last as long. But these ones don't last terribly long. You're going to get 2, maybe 3 weeks out of them maximum, but it doesn't matter, they're worth it. That size and that color is just amazing. This is Alicera or Bealaria. They're pretty much the same thing. Tahoma glacier. You can see that like icy glacier coloration to them. It's almost like it's been frozen over and it's got, I don't know, frost on it that the color is almost muted. It really is a stunning beauty. Also, it likes that little bit of moisture. As with most of these sort of Oncidium hybrids, intergeneric hybrids, and also with all these intergeneric hybrids, they make them incredibly easy to look after. Because of their mixed parentage, they have the ability to adapt to a lot of different climates. So just about no matter where you are, you can grow these indoors, generally without a problem, and still getting them to bloom, just making sure you're giving them enough light. And we'll bring these one at a time because they're huge. This is Dendrobium aridang green. And, well, green is just obvious, you can see the color. And with a lot of these Dendrobiums now, they're so interspecifically bred that they also more viable in a wider variety of different climates. This does have a fair amount of Dendrobium bigibbum in it, but Dendrobium bigibbum, as I'll show you in my other Dendrobium, doesn't do so well in our climate. We just don't have those winter warmth that it needs. Our temperatures in winter go down quite low and our humidity levels drop, which means those bigibbums just don't do well. And invariably, most of them will die horrible, sad, miserable deaths. And this one, because it's got such a mix of other parentage, it actually grows relatively well. The plant itself never looks terribly magnificent, but we still get this beautiful array of flowers every year. If I was in a warmer climate, it would probably grow twice as fast and we'd have 10 times more flowers, but it doesn't matter. I'm still so happy and joyous when I see this. And here we go. Oh, our poor, sad efforts at getting this one to flower. And this is also an interspecific hybrid. A lot of, well, not a lot, fewer different types of Dendrobiums have been bred into this, but it's still 80 to 90% bigibbum that this has been bred from. So we can see that this is really struggling to stay alive well, really not particularly flowering well, and the flowers get damaged so incredibly easily. I'll do a close-up and show you all the aphids that have come to those flowers just in the past day, and all that flower blight that's happened on those white flowers. So quick and easy, and I just wish we could get these to grow properly. But if we move to Thailand, we're not going to have a problem growing them. So we'll just enjoy what we can out of this until then. And this one is Dendrobium burana white. If you know anything about it, you'll know that these flowers, although these are still quite large, should be quite a bit bigger, and this plant should be covered in flower spikes. But we battle to keep our leaves on. Our humidity levels just drop too low. It drops all its leaves. It doesn't matter how much we water. But with these, you've got to understand, you have to have incredibly good drainage because their roots will rot incredibly easily. You're putting this in bark or any other media like that, and as soon as you're watering once a week, you're going to rot the whole thing from the bottom upwards. So it almost needs a plain rock or lava rock or lacquer or something like that, which allows that immediate drainage. They want to get wet and dry out straight away. So it does make them a little bit of a difficult customer if you're growing them outdoors. Indoors, they can actually be grown a lot easier. They can be grown a lot easier if you manage your humidity levels and your watering and give them lots and lots of light. If you can even give them direct sun through a window for almost half a day and they'll still keep going. But remember, if you are doing that, you're going to have to be sure that you're keeping your humidity levels high enough that it's not going to dry your plant out. And indoors, cold breezes from an air conditioner are going to kill your plant. So just keep an eye out on that. If we could get this to flower as well as this, the two colors together, well, we can't have everything. And I think that's about it for, except my Chen's Ruby. He's the other one that I've got indoors. The huge big plant, but there's no point in having him somewhere where you're not going to see him every day. So let's bring him to the table and show you. Ta-da! And he's going to produce, or not produce, he's already produced the flowers. He's going to keep these flowers for a good couple of months. So we're going to have this absolute stunning color in the house. Also in the house, if you're bringing them indoors, ensure that you're still keeping your air movement going. Still keep them a little bit moist during this period, and keep your humidity levels up, because the drier air inside is going to dry them out quite quickly. And if you're keeping them moist and the air stagnant, he's going to rot. So Cymbidiums can be that little bit touchy indoors unless you've got the air movement that they need. They really do like air movement. But as I say, bring them indoors when they're flowering and then put them back outside. And of course, last but not least, our little Phalaenopsis. Who can ever have orchids without having at least a few of these? This little baby's been flowering for going on 4 months now. And I think he's in one of the videos a long time ago where most of these flowers were open already, and we just had a few of the buds at the top that were still getting ready to open, and he's still kept going. We can see some of those lower flowers now are finished, but some of these top flowers are still strong and are going to last for quite a while longer. So this is Phalaenopsis anthura cadiz. It really is such a sweet little plant. Okay, when I say little, this is still going to grow quite a bit. It's not going to be this miniature all its life. This is still a very, very young plant. This is its first year of flowering. And with all of these mini phals that you buy, especially if you're buying them from supermarkets or things like that, they're generally sold in their first year of flowering, which is often only their second year of growth. So they'll still get a fair size bigger. So don't expect your phals, your miniature phals like this, to always remain exactly the same size. Don't be surprised when they start growing a little bit bigger. If you are looking for particularly miniature ones, then you're going to have to keep your eye out. The ones with the really, really small flowers are probably not going to grow terribly much bigger than that, but these ones are still going to size up a bit. And my plant is going to be, it's going to look almost like a medium size as opposed to being a mini. And I think that's about it. If you have any further questions on any of the plants that we've shown here, or any other orchid related questions, be sure to check out the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Ed posts up a lot of orchid related content down there, and it's free and available for everyone. There is some members only gated content, so don't be shy. Sign up, become a member, and grow like a pro. And thank you for watching. If you find any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.